You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Loman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Loman.
Hey everybody, welcome to the House of Sunny podcast. I'm here with Doug from The Rational Capitalist. What's up, Doug?
Hello, Sunny. How are you today?
Good.
Good.
So Doug and I were just chatting off recording or whatever about stand-up comedy and how, well, just public speaking and how it's the number one fear. And I mean, it's if all the lists and ranking of fear, like mountain climbing or all these really physical, jumping out of an airplane, is not the top fear. The top fear is putting yourself up in front of a group of people and being a dork and a loser.
Mm-hmm.
That's biologically baked in. That's biologically baked in. No, of course. Oh, yeah. You and I have been cool since the beginning.
Of course.
People
love me.
Doug has not done stand-up, although he should, because he's funny. I have, and I can tell you, I have also been mountain climbing and done all kinds of other. I have walked across the ricketiest
water
bridge you've ever seen in your life. Like planks were rotting and I'm like walking across it and scared, but I've done all kinds of physically scary things.
You've mountain climbed? Or you just hiked?
Dude. Oh no, I've mountain climbed. No. I've mountain climbed.
Like with the things?
Many times. Oh yeah.
Like where you're, come on.
Dude, I lived in Colorado for 8 years. That's okay. People do that stuff there. But actually the first time I did it was in Taylor's Falls, Minnesota. Yeah. It's really fun. I like it a lot.
Climbing capital of Minnesota.
I'm good at it.
Are you?
I think you know how like some sports, you just have a physical body for it.
You're a natural climber.
I'm a natural because I'm short and kind of stocky. I think that's, and then at the time I was also doing a lot of yoga, which I think really helped me because.
Don't put that on your Tinder ad, by the way.
What? Stocky? Short and stocky?
Short and stocky.
Right. Okay,
not
fine.
What anyone wants to hear.
You'd never know it.
You're petite.
I am petite. Well, and petite, by that I mean
husky.
I'm capable of having.
Husky.
I am not puny.
That's always a red flag.
I'm athletic, and I'm on the short side.
Okay, short and athletic. That's better.
Short and athletic. Is that better? Athletic is code for stocky.
That's right, for a woman.
For a woman, that's right. So
anyways, you went up on stage. You had to push yourself to go up on stage.
Yeah, I was. So that's what I was describing to Doug was that I don't think I've ever been afraid like that. And it was like I had to constantly be talking to myself. This is the first time that I did it. I had to constantly be talking to myself. Shut up. Just do it. You're going to do it. You're not. I had to tell myself, if you leave this club right now, they'll never let you on stage ever again. You'll never get a chance. This is your only chance, which is true. You'd put your name on a list and they'd call your name and you'd go up. And if you didn't show, you went on the blacklist. So incentive, powerful incentive. You can't just come back every Tuesday night open mic.
Bomb than to not show up.
Yeah, because you'll never get another chance. And so I had to keep telling myself that, no, there are consequences to running out. You'll never be able to do it here again. And it was the best club in town. And,
Were you funny? Did people laugh?
Yes. Well,
really?
I think the reason I was funny is because I can write good jokes. My jokes were funny. I don't think my presentation was so great. I don't really remember it because I kind of blacked out. That's how scary it was. But I wrote a really funny 3-minute set and I memorized it. So I did get up on stage, and according to people who were there, I got up on stage and I said my lines and people laughed at the punchlines. But my delivery was probably just burr, 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 like just, really flat and
That's hard to do. It's hard to perform like a comedian.
I was too nervous. I can't
do that.
It was just,
hey, everybody.
Yeah. Whoa.
How are we all doing tonight?
But I think that's a mistake. I don't think that that's the art of it. The art of it is being who you are.
Yeah. Right.
It's
exactly.
like, being on a podcast. I'm me, you're you. We're not different people, but we're just a little more high energy, maybe.
Yeah, I'm very high energy.
I'm speaking for myself, not you.
Yeah, it's almost my nap time.
So the biology of the evolutionary, oh my God, it's the most scary thing. You'd rather throw yourself off a cliff than be considered an outcast from your group.
Yeah, I think you're risking like tribal status or something. There's some evolutionary component where you're risking, you're either going to become an alpha male, so to speak, or you're going to get a lot of status in the group, or you're going to fail and be a loser.
Yeah, you're risking survival.
The other will kill you.
You're risking survival in a big way. And applying that to what's going on today, the social pressure to comply with the totalitarianism is really hard to overcome. And I get it. But it's funny because what I wanted to say at the beginning of the show today, I really wanted to look into the camera and talk to the people who are sticking to their guns, or people who are running businesses and aren't requiring masks and vaccines and things like that. You really are the heroes. And I think that there is a cost to capitulation in this case, like a soul crushing cost. There is no cost. They're not just getting this social benefit and you're not, there's a short-term maybe benefit that people are getting. Maybe they don't have as much trouble. They don't have, the licensor, they're not getting a fine. They're not getting complaints from their employees, whatever. But the people who are sticking to their guns and who are standing up and speaking out, who are willing to be canceled, willing to lose their jobs, these nurses and doctors, the kids, the parents pulling their children out of schools, out of colleges, on and on and on. It's not a huge amount of people yet, but each and every one of you is so important and so heroic. It takes a lot to do what you're doing. And I just wanted to kind of throw that out there as
good.
We have to acknowledge the good, the people who are speaking out and the people who are standing up to this shit, because the more that do it, we don't have to deal with this. If there were just more people. And so every person that comes forward gives a certain number of people around them courage. And if everybody would just do that, it would be like a virus.
Yeah.
So every person matters in this. And even if your nephew won't speak to you, you're giving courage to your niece, something, you've got to hold the line. And good for all of you who are doing that. I really do appreciate you. And I just wanted to say that I can't do this without you. You can't do it without me. We all have to stand up, and we have to encourage other people to stand up. Now is the time. I'm starting to feel kind of sick. I get it. But I'm starting to feel like, especially because my circle used to include all these people who professed to be almost activists for freedom. And a lot of them aren't saying shit about this. And I don't understand that. I feel kind of sick every time I see them talking about something frivolous, or even something that shouldn't be frivolous, like their lives. Oh, my daughter this, or, whatever. Like, I can't even believe I'm making fun of this because this is normal stuff. But I'm like, okay, that's fine that you're posting that, but why aren't you also objecting to what the hell is happening in the world? Why aren't I seeing more of that? And why is it when I post something on social media, only a very limited circle responds? The people who are like me and who are being very vocal are the ones who respond. Everyone else is just silent. And I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. And they can be sick of me or whatever, but shame on them. I don't even, I hate saying that, because when they come around and they start speaking out, I want to welcome them back into the fold. We need them. We need everybody. So if somebody's been a real dick for a year and they've changed their mind, embrace them, forgive them, let them in, tell them good job. Thanks for being here. We have to grow this. You agree with that?
No. Just kidding.
Fuck them. Fuck them all.
Yeah, fuck you.
Off with their heads.
No, you're right. I mean, I think it's really important to acknowledge how difficult it is to risk anything in the world when our lives, we've all grown very complacent because most of us live in a very advanced society where things are fairly easy. We like our routine. We just want to be left alone and do our thing. And it's very easy to comply and just, like one more brick in the wall kind of a thing where it's like, well, I'll just go along with this one other thing. And I'll just go along with this one other thing. Of course, we know where that's all leading. And at some point, you got to say no more. This is it. Like they're trying to inject your children with a drug and now you may think that that's fine. And I don't want to litigate the vaccine science or the efficacy of the drug, because there's good arguments for it, but there are good arguments against it for certain people in certain conditions, whatever. And the point is that that's your choice to make.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden cannot tell you what medicines to take. No government official can tell you what medicine you're supposed to take.
That's what it comes down to. It's not about, is it good or isn't it? I mean, really, people, like, is that really what you're going to argue when the government is telling you to inject yourself with medicine? That the only thing that is about is that's tyranny. That's the only thing that's about. It's not about medicine and illness and quarantine and COVID and whatever. It's just not. It's about tyranny. And yeah, so I really admire the people who've stood up to this, and I want to encourage more people to do that. And I think to encourage people to do that, you have to be kind and understand that it is difficult. I don't think it is complacency and apathy and people not being involved in their government and the civic duty of sort of knowing who you're electing for the school board and stuff like that. But I think also that boiling frog thing, we're seeing that clearly now. It's clear to me now that the TSA, for example, has led to them being able to now say, well, you can't travel without a vaccine. Pre-TSA, they could never have really done that because security was private. There wasn't a federal agency that you could just roll that out. They have the mechanism in place. And they've done that with licensing. They've done that, like all of these hooks into your life and your values, slowly to now the point where they control all your values. And that is where it got really scary. But in addition to that, now we have this crazy social pressure from the propaganda. So yeah, that's where we are. But
yeah, it's funny that because like libertarians of old, we remember when we were arguing that people should be allowed to take drugs, that, we shouldn't have a drug war, and the government had no business telling people what they could put into their bodies. I mean, that was the principle, right? You own your own body and you have the right to control what you put in it. But if you take a drug, you are responsible for your behavior and actions and the liability and consequences of your actions, which means if you drive drunk or stoned and kill someone, you should go to jail. And here now we have a case where the government's telling you to take a drug. So how is this different? I mean, how is it different? We obviously own our own bodies. So like, what right does the government have to do that? Now, if again, you suffer the consequences of that decision, if you get COVID and die, and you could have been saved by the vaccine, that was your decision. I think, the arguments over this overwhelming hospital systems and all that shit. I mean, you could make that same argument about obesity or smoking or drinking or any other human behavior, like
ironically, medical error is the third leading cause of death. So I don't know how that paradox works itself out, but you could ban hospitals and save some people.
Yeah, right. Just don't do anything. In fact, there is a concept in medicine called number needed to treat, which is like in an ICU, it's something like you could give 8 people a drug and 7 of them probably would have been fine on their own if you just hadn't done anything. And like maybe one of them is actually saved as a result of it, and they keep track of this number. So yeah, the fact is that if we literally did nothing, so many X number of people would just be saved per year by not dying in a hospital.
Yeah.
Or would have just gotten better just because they would have gotten better. But anyways, my point is just from a liberty standpoint, you own your own body, and you also own the consequences of your actions. And it is never okay for the government to use these types of arguments, much less people on our side acceding or acquiescing to these arguments, acceding to these arguments about, oh, the hospitals could be overwhelmed and everything like that. Like,
I'm going to go on record and say, and I've said this before on the podcast, I screwed up. I thought 2 weeks lockdown I was sort of okay with it. And I'm sure all of our listeners remember, I was sort of okay with it. I thought, I didn't get it. I thought a couple of things. I thought they wouldn't dare do what they've done. They couldn't get away with it. I thought the Americans wouldn't listen or something. I thought that the 2 weeks to like not overwhelm the hospitals seemed reasonable, and we didn't really know what was going on. And there were people at that time that were saying, you can't give this power to them, that this is wrong, and they won't give it up. And I didn't believe it. And they were right.
Yep, that's right. I don't think it was an unreasonable position to take. But given the uncertainty of that time, when this first started, and Trump was in office, and, I thought from like a federal standpoint, there's no way Trump's going to allow something like this.
I didn't think he would. And he is the one who pushed. And to me, his handling of this is absolutely the biggest black mark on his presidency, because he basically pushed Fauci and Burke and those people into the forefront and let them just kind of make all the decisions. He didn't lead. And it seemed like his instincts were better. Like he and Melania shouldn't have been wearing masks everywhere, especially after they had it. And like the whole thing was just silly.
Yeah.
And they could have done a lot of pushing and not succumbing to the social and political pressure to be irrational.
But when you think about the pressure that and the propaganda coming from the medical community at that time, and I mean, look, this has all been a huge unmasking. So, and not to use a pun, an ironic pun, unmasking. Thank you. Thank you. No, it seriously has been a total unmasking of the medical establishment. We were talking about this yesterday, where I've talked to some doctors who have said they've had patients coming in saying things like, I will never trust what a doctor says again. I'll never trust a hospital, the medical community, and stuff. And we were kind of like, that's probably good, because you really shouldn't trust people. You should do your own research. And, there's a lot of good in that. But at the same time, the effect socially and the social dynamic is that there's a lot of people who have now been unmasked as being complete political operators from journals like Lancet that were above reproach historically. Like these are the best scientific journals, they're pure science. And now they've been shown to be complete political propagandists. Of course, the media, the political establishment, the doctors, the physicians that are just acquiescing to the dictates of their board rather than pushing back and saying, no, I'm the doctor, I'll decide what to do with a patient. I'm not going to let Joe Biden tell me what to do. So the doctors have failed. And I think a lot of people, that's all good. That's a good, healthy unmasking that all these people are not people to be trusted. The other thing it's done or exposed is, and what's more frightening is not that so many people are now have woken up to the truth and become probably more independent minded. The really scary thing are the people that are still believing the experts and cheering them on, like, good job, Gavin. Good job, Fauci. Good job, Biden. You're protecting it. Like those people, I think you were saying this yesterday, Sonny, those are the people who want to be told, like psychologically, and metaphysically, what, that like kind of that level, want to be told what to do. And they want an expert to tell other people what to do. And that's really what's been exposed here, that there are people who want to think for themselves and take the consequences and responsibility of life. And there are people who want others to determine.
That is literally the culture and psychology of the split in the United States right now.
Yeah.
There's the culture and psychology of people who want and are comfortable with freedom, and the psychology of people who want and are comfortable with tyranny. They want to be told what to do, and they want everybody to do the same thing because they don't want freedom is not orderly enough. It's messy and it gives them anxiety. It's like
scary.
So I do think that things are, certain things are going to be falling apart around us, and it's going to get very interesting and difficult. But I really believe in the American culture, and I believe in a certain segment of our society. I do, even with everything we've seen. I think that there will emerge better communities than there were before. Like, there's been such what you were just talking about, how it's revealed a lot. Trump revealed a lot. His big bonus was pulling the curtain back on all of this corrupt shenanigans going on in Washington and globally, and pulling the curtain back on NATO, stuff like that. Like, he was just so direct and honest. What do we need this for? That everybody was exposed. And then the attacks that came after him exposed the media for its total bias and complete lack of objectivity. Like you said, COVID has exposed these medical and scientific establishments. So we're just, CRT is exposing things. When you have the teachers union saying, we're going to teach CRT, and please go after these parents and call them domestic terrorists. I mean, it's like these things are revealing, oh, okay, I didn't realize that the teachers were bad guys. Okay. Now we know the teachers are bad guys. And like on and on, like all these dominoes are falling, and it is really insecure and difficult to deal with psychologically. However, I think so it's important to look on the bright side and try to get in the mindset that this is a good thing. And in the end, we will just live in better communities. But for 5 years, it might be tough. I mean, we're going to have some really bad economic times. We're going to have some difficult times with educating your kids.
Yep.
You're going to have tough time traveling. You're going to, without mandatory medicine, you're going to have a tough time with your small business. You might have to work labor. I mean, who knows what's going to be going on here? You might have to move in order to live with people, among people who have your back. You're going to have to show up to your local government shit. I mean, that's the really important thing. And I want to talk to you about this because you're already doing that.
Yeah.
And I think the key to this is community, local civic duty, trying to keep on the bright side, but interacting with people who are on your same side, making sure you know who they are, and try to recruit more people into your group and forgive the people who screwed up. You have to forgive them.
Václav Havel talked about this idea of parallel structures. Like when you're living under tyranny, it's important to create these, like, you call them communities, but I
want to comment on that. You know what I think that means? I didn't really understand that concept. I thought, well, what the hell? You can't have another school. Like, you have a school system. You can't have a second school system. This is a pain in the ass. Homeschooling sucks. It's a pain in the ass. What I think it means is what I was saying earlier about how they own all your values. You have to have values that they can't affect.
Yeah.
That to me is what the parallel structures means. You have to have values they can't take away from you.
Yeah.
The more hooked into their system you are, the more at their mercy you are. Unhook one as much as you can. I think that's what that means. Do you agree? Because
oh yeah,
and I used to think it was Bitcoin and stuff like that, and I didn't really understand it.
No, a lot of it, they talked about the importance of even one person standing up, because when you're in a tyrannical situation, it's very easy to go along. When one person pushes back against it, it gives courage and there's a 100x benefit to one person speaking out, pushing back, yes. The ripple effect of that.
It doesn't feel that way when you're doing it, does it? It feels like you're on freaking stage in a comedy club and everyone's looking at you.
Well, that's why these people are heroic, and we need to celebrate anyone like these people speaking out at the school boards and, going and taking on that kind of stress and anxiety is very hard when you're an older person. I think when you're younger, it's like, let's go to the rally and, whatever. But when you're an older person and stuff, and you have kids and you're like trying to manage your life and you have real risk, like, okay, if I lose my job, how am I going to buy groceries for my children? That kind of thing. Right. There's a lot of risk in doing stuff like that. But what I was going to say is that I've also had a very warming kind of thought and realization throughout the last couple of years. And it's something I come back to, which is that, this could sort of end very quickly if it's sort of like the feeling of being in a divorce with someone, you don't want to be with in a relationship anymore. And it's acrimonious and it's horrible. And you got to figure this out. And, every day is like, scheming and who's going to do this and what if they do that. And you see people going through divorces all the time who are in this nightmare.
Yeah. It's very hard mentally.
And they're thinking ahead and they're trying to think 3 steps ahead and they're in this fight. And at some point though, there's a divorce. And it's like, wait a second, I didn't need to go. Why did I go through that for 30 or 40? I was fighting and hating my life and I was miserable every day. All I had to do was get away from that. And I don't want to say that we should just go like kind of walk away, but in one sense you can kind of walk away in the sense of what you're saying, which is when everyone on our side that wants freedom and believes in liberty and just wants to be left alone, to live their lives and voluntarily trade and work with other people, we could have that society very quickly. It's sort of like if we just all went, this sounds dumb, but it's like, okay, all those people, you go over here, and all the crazies, you go over there and go live your life.
Yeah, we can have that
crazy shit over there. We can do that in a second.
We can have the society we want. We can have it tomorrow. We don't need these systems. We can start over with people who are like-minded and go find those people. And I mean, I'm in California. I am surrounded, but I'm in Orange County. So I'm there. I have neighbors that are on my side.
But there's a lot of people on our side, like a tremendous number of people on our side. And I'm not saying it's easy to just, okay, everybody move to this state and we'll just all have a utopia.
I don't think that's it. But I was just going to say, like, even just in my little town, I really think that it's worthwhile to connect and to get to know everybody and show up. And even within this behemoth of California, this is all a bubble here too. Gavin Newsom is only as powerful as the sheriff's department in Orange County is willing to enforce his edicts.
Right.
And the sheriff's department of Orange County has been shown to be willing to stand up. Now, if they had more leaders and more people backing them, maybe we could actually make a play for independence in the sanctuary county. Why not?
Exactly. Why not?
Why can't we be a sanctuary county with San Diego? We could be.
And you know what's funny, Sonny, is part of the reason why I've been pushed to this kind of thinking, and I'm an advocate of like a kind of secession in this way, is I do have friends who are policemen. I have friends who are military people. I have friends in a lot of different walks of life. And believe me, there are a lot of people out there in those positions. And like you said, these politicians are as powerful as the sheriffs and agents who will enforce their edicts. And I'm not, we're not quite at this stage yet, but when you start kind of coming back to this idea of sanctuary nullification, like what did the founders do? And, what have people done throughout American history? At some point, they just say, we're not following that.
Yeah.
And
what are you going to do about it? Come and enforce it. I mean, that's
look what
you have
the
to say
left
to them.
did under Trump. I mean, they had sanctuary cities that were effectively thwarting ICE from deporting illegal immigrants.
That's right.
And, they had all sorts of sanctuary cities, and they were basically just thumbing their nose at the federal government.
And think what the government would have had to have done. They would have had to, to enforce that. They would have had to come in with troops and enforce it. I mean, ultimately, that is the power of don't you have that in your own relationships where you're like, you realize somebody's being kind of bossy and pushy and they're just sort of like, they're on a different wavelength. Their anxiety is kind of getting to you. And you just have to go, you know what? I'm just not going to, their toxicity and anxiety and their demands only affect me because I'm letting it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just what are they going to do if I don't do anything? If I don't get sucked into it, they can't make me, because ultimately I'm the sovereign of my body. No one can make me do anything. And if we take that on a bigger scale, I think that's exactly right. If a county just goes, nope, what's Gavin Newsom going to do? Nothing.
Yeah. And let
them. Did you, I sent this story to you of this, I can't remember where I sent it to you because I was going to open it up and read it, but it's about that Idaho politician.
Yeah.
Where did I send that to you so I can just pull it up?
Yeah, you sent that to me.
Was it on Signal?
Probably. It was about basically the governor left the state on a trip.
Yeah.
And she
the governor of Idaho, and she's the deputy. I want to get her name.
She's the lieutenant governor. Yeah.
She's the lieutenant governor. I want to get her name right so that I can. Oh, here we go. Okay. This is the funniest story.
This is how you win.
I love this so much, you guys. Oh my God. I'm going to share my screen. This woman. Go find her on YouTube, everybody.
Lieutenant Governor of Idaho, right?
Yeah. Go find her on social media and follow this brave, incredible politician. Idaho Lieutenant Governor bans vaccine mandates, tries to deploy National Guard during governor's 2-day trip. So her boss leaves and she just starts doing stuff. Like, I'm just going to do stuff. And apparently it's not. Apparently it's not the first time.
Janice McGeechan.
She's done this before, and the governor has to come back and undo what she's done.
Funny. Is that her name? Yeah, okay. Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeechan.
Okay. Okay. So much. Okay. Setting up a prank to humiliate a pretentious Aribla. It isn't clear which camp Idaho Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeechan would place herself in, but on Tuesday, she took advantage of Governor Brad Little's out-of-state travels. That's a Republican, by the way. Brad Little's a Republican. He left town for a second time this year to issue pandemic-related executive orders and move to press the Idaho National Guard into Border Patrol duty. As soon as Little left to meet other 9...
She's going to send him to the Mexican border.
So this clown, this GOP clown, leaves town to go to Texas to meet with other GOP clowns. And McGeechan, back in Idaho, issues an executive order prohibiting private companies from requiring employees to get vaccinated against COVID, among other things. She also asked Major General Michael Gershik how she could activate the National Guard and send them to the U.S.-Mexico border. So funny.
She did it before, too. She banned the mask mandates, I guess.
She did. Little, who did send state police troopers to the border. State police troopers were sent to the border in June to help stop cross-border drug trafficking, was a little more direct. Okay, wait. Blah, blah, blah. And then the governor says, I will be rescinding and reversing any actions taken by the lieutenant governor when I return. Attempting to deploy our National Guard for political grandstanding is an affront to the Idaho Constitution and insults the men and women who have dedicated their life to serving our state and country. In May, McGeechan issued a ban on mask mandates when Little was on an official trip to Tennessee. This woman's on fire. I love it.
That's how she's going to win. She's
going
to win. She's going to become the governor.
She's going to become the governor. She's running for governor and she will become the governor.
That's the shit that we need to start doing. Like, Republicans are the only politicians that never use their power.
This is why
Democrats use their power immediately.
This is why I love Marjorie Taylor Greene too, because she's such a badass. We just need more of that kind of thing. More badassery.
Yeah, like DeSantis is great. But yeah, this is, and these kinds of things, I was talking to a friend who was like worried about some issues like related to his career and whatnot, given the mandate stuff. And I said, you've got to look at everything tactically. Like when you're in a war, like if you were in World War II and you're the North African desert and you're walking around and a couple of German guys approach you, a couple Nazis approach you and say, hey, are you guys American soldiers? If you said, no, we're just walking around, we're good. And they said, okay, go ahead. Would you feel like, no, I should have stood up and told those Nazis, we're American, you damn Nazis, we hate, and they would have just shot you, right?
Yeah.
So you tactically decided, obviously, let's lie and just get through this, because now we're going to go back to our base and we're going to start launching missiles at them and we're going to win the war, So everything, you got to approach everything right now tactically. Like there are situations where you may have to suck it up and take some shit and swallow your pride a little bit. And just think of everything tactically right now, the larger battle. What will win the larger battle?
I feel that I have a hard time making those calls, because when do I do something like that where I'm hiding to fight another day? When do I stand up so I can encourage others to stand up? Because by saying, oh no, I'm just a Nazi, doesn't encourage the people to stand up to the Nazis. However, I don't want to get shot, like it is. Mm-hmm. I think this is a real conundrum, and every decision, it's difficult to know where you're at and which
that's why war is difficult.
And
you need generals, and that's why things go wrong all the time, and you make mistakes, but I would think of things tactically and not always feel like you have to do something.
Yeah.
But there are times but on the other hand, I think that's less a problem than people being wusses and not doing anything at all. Like most people, you don't have to twist their arms to tell them, go hide and don't do anything. It's pretty easy.
I'm getting kind of sick of that.
Like, I think we're more at the point now where people, especially, friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing, about a CEO of a medical system who this friend was talking to, who now really laments having kind of gone along with all this COVID stuff, despite the costs or the precedents that were being set, and now kind of can't put the genie back in the bottle, and is facing huge problems for their system as a result. And so the point being that guy who was in a leadership position, what is he going to do now? It's like, come on, dude. All right, well, even if you made a mistake and now you realize it, what are you doing now?
Yeah.
Stand up. Now is the time.
And
like, we don't have 3 years.
If you run a business and you're not going to mandate any of this, and you don't mandate masks, make sure everybody knows it. Like that's something you can do. Put a sign on your window that says, I don't mandate vaccines for my employees. I'm not going to tell my employees what to do about their health, and I'm not going to mandate masks, and like make a show and make a scene. If you're somebody who's somewhat insulated, and guess what? If you lose half your customers, then lose half your goddamn customers. I know that's easy for me to say, but I guess I'm to the point where I really want to see more people doing that. I do see a lot of people doing that, and I cheer them. And if you think that there's no cost to remaining quiet and being meek, and there is a cost. There is a cost for not fighting, and it's in your soul, Well,
I think practically speaking too, I often I make this point when I'm talking, thinking about investing, which is like, you could have a strategy that really protects you in like an Armageddon scenario.
Yeah.
But it's like, do you want to be the richest guy in Armageddon? I mean, like, right. I have the best mud hut, I have the best rations of anyone. I knew this was coming, and I saved I saved a couple candy bars and stuff like that. Like if society gets really bad and really tyrannical and your business is still there, like, do you even really want to be I mean,
well, it's the Robert Stadler thing. I've talked about this on the podcast. You weren't there. It was when I did with Walter. The Robert Stadler thing. What can you do when you're dealing with people? So he capitulates. He allows them to lie with his name on it. He doesn't take a stand. And he just feels like people are stupid. And what can I do? I mean, I'm not involved in that. My research is so important scientist. That I need to just put up with this because my research is important. And my important research, in other words, my job, my feet, all the things that you're holding on to, he held on to that. And he justified it for allowing these people to use him to be tyrannical against people. And guess where he ended up? Like psychologically, he ended up wanting to hurt people and wanting to be in power and cause mass destruction. And I think that it does corrupt your soul. So you have to watch out for that. You have
because he thought another subtlety here is he thought he could separate his scientific career and his scientific research. He thought he could separate that from the conditions necessary to do research, which is freedom, private property, like a lawful government, a non-tyranny. And he thought that, that's all that politics and people and crazy. I just want to do my little thing over here. And what we're finding out is that civics and being a part of the process in your community is like part of life. Isn't
that funny that we thought you could ignore it and you could just sort of pursue your little narrow career and family and not really think we actually live in a society of other people. And if we're not connected to how that's being run, it will be run by the worst people. The worst people.
Yeah. Because they love it.
They love it.
We hate it. We see it as like a necessary kind of evil.
I personally don't hate it. I think that I would like to be the one making decisions.
Well, yeah, but you also have to go to the shitty city council meeting or the shitty
I would hate that.
And listen to the minutes and listen to really boring stuff.
I really have to?
But there's 5 minutes in that 2 hours that's like really critical where they're, and by the way, we're okay. We finished the sewers and the roads conversation. Now we're going to declare racism a public health emergency and we're going to approve critical race theory in the schools. Okay, everybody, see you later. Have a good day.
Right.
And this is what happens, and no one shows up to this stuff.
Yeah, so. It's time to show up. I'm going to start showing up to that stuff. You've already started showing up. And what's so exciting, Doug, is you started showing up to that stuff and it's working.
Yeah, I was just saying this to a friend yesterday. I can't get into like real specific details, but I'll try and characterize this sort of generically, which is I said to him, you and I started meeting like a year ago to have lunches and stuff. And I said, now, like the other night, he was meeting with a state Supreme Court justice, and I'm like on the board of something pretty major, and like some major people in my area and state like want to come on the podcast I'm going to be doing, and
you're affecting policy. You're on the verge of affecting policy.
Yeah, very much. And it didn't, and it was really, it's like showing up.
Getting your neighbors, finding like-minded people, writing some letters, maybe.
What you can do too. Yeah. Here's a good strategy. Find a state representative in a super red district where they have no fear. Like there's a lot of Republicans in sort of mixed districts, and they have to be very careful because they're going to lose if they're too extreme. But there are always districts in your state, probably in your state, like in Orange County, where there's a couple of representatives that are.
Do you mean really, a state legislator?
Yeah, like a state legislator. It could be congressional too, but I'm talking about like more like local action.
Yeah.
And if you get those red district type people who have no fear, and you say, hey, what are you doing about this? Why don't you do this? How about, look at what DeSantis is doing there, and look at it, especially if the legislature in your state is run by Republicans. Push those people because they have no fear and they're usually on your side anyways. And it's like show up and start making suggestions or showing them what other
give them
states
the
are
words
doing.
and tell them what you'd like to see. And
like DeSantis just pushed the law
yeah.
against like allowing their citizens to sue big tech. And I sent that to, and they're like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. We're actually doing that here in our state. And it turns out they are doing that, you know, like they like to see precedent and they like to see what other states are doing. So if you know that, give them the words and the ideas and push them to say, there's a lot of people that want to see this, you know?
Yeah. I like it. Good advice. And socially stand up, and socially, I think it's really important. And I'm telling myself this every day, to forgive the people who didn't get it until as they come to our side, embrace them. And it's going to be difficult, and just accept that it's not going, you know, we're never going to go back. I was just thinking the other day, January 2020 was like a really nice economy. Things were pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
We're not going back to that for a while now. We've got to accept and let go of a level of prosperity and calmness and peacetime. Peacetime's over. It's just over. COVID changed all of that. We're now in a very serious situation, and we have to fight, and we have to let go, like you said, do parallel structures, parallel values. And the bad economy and the bad situation and the mandates and all this stuff is coming for you no matter where you are. It's coming for you. Things are not going to be the same. So I think once you accept that, there's a little bit of fatalism there, like, oh, that life is over. There's this new life, and it is what I make it now, you know?
Yeah. And I think the thing on our side is that this isn't like 5 people, you know, there's tens and tens of millions, scores of millions of people in this country who are on the side. And it's not even a Democrat Republican thing really.
That's right. I see so many Democrats,
you know, because they're seeing this
alarmed.
too.
Yes. Very alarmed.
And there's a lot of bad, you know, in my little political meanderings throughout my state, there's a lot of bad Republicans. I mean, it's not that they're necessarily horrible people, but they're there.
They don't have courage.
They don't really, you know, they could have run as a Democrat if it would have got them to win. They just want to they like the position and they like to be respected. You know, everyone has these different ones. There's some true believers, and you got to kind of find those people to really push the envelope. But the other scary thing is, you know, the left's trying to take over the election machinery, metaphorically and literally. And so you got to fight. But, you know, if you want any chance even of changing your state, you need to fight back against that. And so we're in a real battle here. Like,
everyone's got to show up. Everyone who can has to show up.
And it doesn't take much if you're active in your state. And we've seen this from some of our online friends as well. You start getting a little bit active locally or in your state, and there's like maybe one step between you and talking to some of the most important people in your state.
Yeah.
If you're a reasonable person and you're not
a weirdo.
You have a job and or whatever. Yeah, you're not a weirdo. Good way to put it. And you know, if you're a reasonable person and stuff, you have any sort of status or anything locally, or you know some people that do, you're very close to making a huge impact. And so just do it. Just start writing letters.
Yeah.
Go to your thing, find out who all your people are, and just start writing them letters, and maybe go and meet them and tell them what other states are doing, but put things in a form that's not really abstract and so visionary. Like give them real tangible things. Like, hey, I want this.
Yeah, give them practical, and also don't scream. And I mean, I think people should be adamant, and I think we need to start being tough, but we also have to keep calm, and I think it's a lot easier to stay calm if you've got 10 friends with you as well.
Yeah. Be tactical.
Don't go by yourself. Don't feel like you're on the defense. Go with 10 people. Feel like you can make a difference, and they need to listen to you, and they must listen to you.
Yeah,
there's a calmness around that, around being in a group. And so that's part of it too. And I think the same with just social media, speaking out, and in your business, speaking out, and in your job, speaking out. And it's time for everybody to stand up and again, welcome in the people who screwed up and welcome in the people who a month from now realize they screwed up. Whatever, we have to be forgiving as well. I think that's really important because I see a lot of people on the right. They're just so mad and they want to, somebody comes in and starts, saying the right stuff. And then I see them getting pounced on. Where were you when It's like, well,
that's dumb.
It is dumb. No. Let them encourage them for
question.
Speaking out.
What do you want? Do we want to litigate and recriminate against the bad guys here, or we want a free society? Right. How do we get there? You got to do certain things to get to a free society, and that means we need a lot of numbers. We need a lot of people, and it's not going to be perfect.
Getting revenge is not going to help anybody. So what you want is just people agreeing to take this tyranny off of us and find a way to do that. So I think that's going to be it for the show today. I think it was good, huh? A little positivity.
I'm not in a position to evaluate, but
you're too biased.
Yeah, I'm biased. I think it was awesome. No, I think we're trying to reflect. I think we both feel the mood that everybody's in, which is it's kind of hard to feel like we can go about normal life when we see such serious stuff going on and such a corrupt government, such a corrupt everything right now. And I think the way to feel better about it is you can do something. We still can change a lot of things, and we got to start. When you build that infrastructure locally, you're building a future for yourself too, because the more people you network with that are like-minded and stuff, those are the people you can rely on that, we're going to have to rebuild this whole country with. And
psychologically, what we need is courage. And courage comes, since our greatest fear is getting up on that stage and maybe losing our status. Courage can come from joining and getting people around you and feeling like you're not sticking your neck out so much, So I think psychologically, in order to stay positive and to stay courageous and to fight the fight, you've got to connect with like-minded people. Don't do this by yourself. And even if you're just a businessman putting a sign in your window, find 10 other businessmen who are doing the same. Start a little campaign about it. Make a flyer that's the same. Walk around your town and hand it out to all the businesses and see if they'll do it too. Find those people, get together, join. I think it's really important.
And I'm going to be announcing probably in a week or so when I get my website up for my local organization. I started a C4, and so we'll announce that and put something out. And if you're not in a position to be super outspoken or feel courageous about it, there's other people that you can donate to that.
That's the case too. But even if that's all you're doing is giving money, you need 5 people that you can call who are on your side. You have to have people that don't make you feel like you're the loner loser. And you're not. I mean, that's the thing. And I think all this censoring is making us feel like we are, and we're not.
Gaslighting. Yeah. We all feel like we're the crazy.
So because the social media, the algorithms are censoring us out and everything, it's important that you actually have them on Signal and Telegram and on speed dial or whatever. You've got to find a way to feel like you're not, that you are part of a group of people who feel the exact same way and who will fight in whatever capacity you can. And that, whatever that means, if it's writing a check or whatever, that those people will write checks too, or, find the people who are on your page so that you don't feel like you're on stage doing stand-up comedy.
Bombing.
I've never bombed. Never, ever. No, actually, I bombed. The one time I got booed when I was telling a joke on stage was I was giving a speech at a tea party, and I had just a bunch of jokes, and I was running through them because I don't give speeches. I don't have anything important to say. I was just running through my jokes. And one of them was an George Bush joke. I got booed.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, the Tea Party. They still loved their Bush, you know? George Bush was a good man. Today, that joke would have killed.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you how, like, sometimes the culture just takes Trump. We have Trump to thank for exposing the Bushes.
Yeah. All right.
So, all right.
Well,
hey,
luck.
Thanks for joining us today, everybody. Comment, write us. You can write me at, what is it? It's houseofsunny@gmail.com. We want your questions. Put some comments in here on the YouTube video or Facebook. Follow me at Sunny Lohman on Twitter or Facebook. You can follow Doug at The Rational Capitalist on Facebook or theratcap.com.
That's right.
All right. Thanks. See you later.
All right. All right. I got
called the House of Sunny. It's filled with satire and fun. It's been the demise of bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now and give perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right and achieves world peace, guaranteed all your money back. Last time, ready?